what was supposed to be the last session. Apologies for the problems that we experienced with the Department for Education session with Amanda. We have rescheduled that for 4 o'clock, so if any of you are interested in that content, then please do pop along to that session. So yeah, apologies again for that. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Allison from FW Capital, who is going to give you an update on the funding support that's available in the broader sense, but also in relation to the pandemic that we're experiencing at the moment. So without further ado, over to you, Allison.
Thank you, Louise. I shall just share with you the screen. Oh, if I can. There we go. So hopefully you can see the first slide there, which just introducing the presentation. My name's Allison Routledge. As Louise said, I work for FW Capital. And I'd like to start by thanking NEPIC for what's been a great day, actually. I think hopefully you've all gained something from the day, and trust that you're all getting more used to virtual networking, which I think is going to be with us for quite some time, and might even replace a lot of face-to-face meetings going forward in the longer term, perhaps. I know normally at this time of the day, after such an event, I'd have done far more steps than I've done today, and my feet would be aching because I'll have been trotting around in a pair of high heel shoes probably for the whole day. So it's quite a change to be sat in my slippers presenting to you this afternoon. So thanks for taking the time out to listen to what I've got to say today. I appreciate being the graveyard shift, and I know it's been a long day, but I'm going to speak to you for about 20 minutes. And I know the presentation is called Funding for Growth, but I will, as Louise said, be covering some basics of the funding available through the recovery from the pandemic. So to give you a broad view of, well, as I said, the support for during COVID, a broader view of traditional funding options, and then I will introduce FW and the funds that we have available. If I can encourage you to think about some questions during the presentation, hopefully I'll be able to answer them. But please feel free to pop some. Although I can't see the chat at the minute, but anyway, we'll cover that up at the end. So, COVID obviously brought about with it lots of questions, perhaps without any clear answers. A lot of uncertainty, most definitely, and tested every company's contingency plans. We're experiencing unprecedented times, which, I don't think we need to say, but and planning and forecasting are extremely difficult. But I do think it's really important that businesses take time to think about the what ifs, plan and replan, continually reflecting and refining as far as practically possible. You need to take time to consider your options and make choices about which way to turn. Whilst being prepared to change tack, I think, is the important thing. I think as fast adaptation is crucial in these circumstances. The second picture on this slide, actually, although talking about changing direction and so on, just reminded me of a golf course, which I'm missing at the minute because obviously we're not allowed to play golf. So no doubt the Masters will cover us off. We'll be able to watch it all weekend if we can't play it. So there's no doubt that recovery of the economy is going to take quite some time, and businesses are going to recover at different paces at different times. Some, of course, may not survive, unfortunately. So the focus for so many will be on the impact of cash, working capital, cash flow, with decisions about taking on further debt from banks and government support initiatives important to the survival of the business in the short term. Remembering that whilst there's lots of incentives within these schemes, such as interest-free in the first 12 months and upfront fees paid, the debt has to be serviced at some point in the future. We have to say at FW Capital we've been really impressed with our portfolio. It represents quite a cross-section of sectors and how they've demonstrated diversification, enhanced digitisation, e-commerce, automation. Today is obviously an example of that, and certainly how we collaborate's changed, perhaps for the long term and for the better. We'll wait and see. We've seen how businesses have pivoted and adapted to change, with the gin manufacturer making sanitizer gel, events company redeploying their equipment into NHS services, and another shift into PPE production, and many of them reaching the target market, in inventive ways. So I appreciate navigating the government support schemes is pretty difficult and an ever-changing landscape. However, keeping abreast of all the areas of support which you can access is clearly critical to help businesses prosper during what are difficult and unprecedented times. Whilst at FW Capital we're not experts in government funding, there are plenty of advisors who can guide you. In this slide, I've outlined some of the initiatives with a couple of links, so if you do get to see the slides, you'll have access to those. The areas the government have helped with range from employee wages and the furlough scheme, which is now thankfully being extended until the 31st of March 2021. There are various tax deferment schemes which you may have taken advantage of. Just on the issue of tax, if you have a problem paying, your Crown debt, you really do need to communicate, speak to HMRC. They will often agree repayment plans, and I know in particular with VAT that's been deferred, you can repay that back up to March 2022 now. So don't bury your head in the sand. If there are other liabilities alongside the Crown, then please take advice. So with the support of government guarantees, the banking and finance sectors have introduced a range of measures designed to help businesses of all sizes. So these include the CBILS, Corona Business Interruption Loan Scheme, and there's also one for large businesses. So there are 100 accredited CBILS lenders. Whilst I'd suggest it is easier to apply to your own bank first, it is worth noting that if they do decline, and we have seen quite a bit of that, that you can then go and apply to any other CBILS accredited funder. So you don't have to stop there. You can, as I say, find out some other alternative funders like us as an example. The Bounce Back Loan Scheme is clearly a smaller loan up to 50,000. That is, and you can't have a bounce back loan as well as having a CBILS outstanding. You can't, or other way around, you can't have a bounce back loan outstanding as well as take on a CBILS. But it is, it has just, there's been a change to the bounce back loan now, in that if you applied for under 50,000 previously, you can now go back to the same lender and request the top up or an extra amount, within that 50,000. So that's just a new development there that's worth noting. The Future Fund is designed for companies that are pre-revenue and pre-profit. And again, all of those schemes have been extended until the 31st of January 2021, which is great news. Not every business will need financial support, and I think it's really important to think about, taking advantage of as much non-financial support as possible. Communication, talking to each other. A lot of us are working from home and missing that interaction, and I think that's really, really important. So carrying on to talk to people, like-minded business owners, contacts, people that you trust and you can that can support you. I think we're very lucky in the North East to have a very strong professional services community. So if you do want to access some further support, there are lots of organisations and funders that can help you navigate what can be a very confusing landscape. Accountants, lawyers, some others listed on this slide. The local LEPs, for example, are always very keen to support. And again, things are changing continually, so look out for local initiatives. The Tees Valley business fund, for example, from the Tees Valley Combined Authority. I know the Mayor's very keen to support businesses. Back to Business Grants, the North East Growth Hub. Innovation, really important to carry on with that, and scale-up programmes. So there are lots of support organisations that can help. So please take advantage of them. And just a comment on the end there, really. Control what you can control. It's a very difficult time, and, there are lots of things that we can't control. So this is just a bit of a snapshot of what the traditional banking facilities that you're all probably familiar with. And many of the companies that provide these sorts of facilities will also be accredited for CBILS, as well as continuing to provide the business as usual funding. And as I said earlier, really, as with CBILS, I think it's always important to try your existing bank first. Obviously, they'll have a track record, they'll know you better. But, if you are unsuccessful, perhaps consider another bank, another funder. Is it the right time to move banks? Potentially not. But, there are, as I say, other funders that aren't high street banks. It doesn't involve moving your bank account that you may be able to access funding from. We have heard from applicants to banks that they're not so keen on businesses applying for sort of in case of need and contingency facilities. So they want to see projections that show, a gap in the funding, which to me seems a little bit strange, really. And I think businesses are trying to sort of build in some protection for the what ifs and forecasting. Very difficult, although really important. And if we needed a crystal ball before, then goodness knows what we need now when we come to forecasting. But, you've got to consider, as I said earlier, can you repay the debt, now or in the future? And that has to be the key consideration. Always leverage off property assets, company-owned assets, property assets, debtor book where possible, and accountants are generally great advisors in that respect, in guiding you as to where the best options are. Then you come on to brokers and second-tier funders, which are the likes of us. Brokers will search the market for you. And you need to consider, is it actually debt that you need, or is it equity? Can you get cash in from your own funds to invest into the business? Family, friends, obviously with care, that brings its own issues sometimes, or angel investors. We do have a growing North East angel investor network locally, and that, a number of affluent individuals and organisations looking to invest and support businesses in which they see potential. And I think the recent issues will no doubt provide the opportunity for you to demonstrate to a lender how your team has behaved, survived in difficult circumstances, and that can show the real strength of the team. Being able to demonstrate honesty, integrity, passion, hard work, and a strong understanding of the marketplace is crucial when you're pitching to funders. So, to go on now and introduce specifically FW Capital and how we fit into the funding landscape. We are funders operating out of the North East and the North West, where we have over 30 in the teams there, 6 regional offices and 3 funds. In the North East, it's our 10-year anniversary this year, and we have a team of 15, having invested 170 million since 2010 into 650 businesses. Public sector leverage of 300 million and created and safeguarded 7,500 jobs. So I think this just demonstrates that, we're an active funder. We want to lend to businesses to help them be resilient and grow. And we would generally take a riskier, more unsecured stance than traditional banks. So the 3 funds that we look after, which I'll talk to you about today, are the Northern Powerhouse Investment Fund, the Tees Valley Catalyst Fund, and the North East Property Fund. So the North East Property Fund, the Northern Powerhouse Investment Fund, So we're part of the delivery of the total fund, and it's split into three parts, as this slide demonstrates here. So there's funding for the smaller end microfinance from 25 to 100,000. There's equity up to £2 million, and then we sit in the middle in providing debt funding from 100 to 750,000. So what is this fund for? So basically, as I say, we start at 100,000 up to 750,000. The fund is available to SMEs in the Northern Powerhouse region, excluding the North East Lep. So we're sort of south of Peterlee, but that we do include Cumbria and Tees Valley and the North West. That's where our key focus is. And basically it's debt funding for a period up to 5 years, and can be used for any purpose, for purchase of property, for equipment, marketing, stock, staffing. There's no real parameters as to what the funds are used for, as long as it's investing into the business for growth. We can give small capital repayment holidays, short, should I say, capital repayment holidays at the start of the loan. But as I say, we have invested 80 million from this particular fund into 246 companies. So the next slide is an example of one of the companies that we've invested in. So Synergist actually relocated an office into Tees Valley in order to benefit from the fund. They had their main head offices in the northeast, up in Newcastle. Synergist, a provider of energy and water efficiency consultancy services, and they've received several rounds of investment from us of their developing new products and services, and they are going on to bigger and better things now, and currently refinancing, which is a good news story really, when they can take the debt to a traditional funder. So that's the Northern Powerhouse Investment Fund. Included in that, we are now accredited, as I mentioned earlier, for CBIL, so under the British Business Bank. And again, our criteria is much the same around the Northern Powerhouse Investment Fund. So again, SMEs up to 5 years with the same sort of lending limits. And as I said, this is the Northern Powerhouse Investment Fund is more for growing businesses, but this is to help with, resilience and coming through the pandemic. We have already invested as a whole, FW Capital, in the Northeast and the Northwest, 16 million into 52 companies. So we've been very active in this area, trying to support, I think time is of the essence, and as I say, it has now been extended until the end of the year, so that's great news. So the next fund I'd like to talk about is the Tees Valley Catalyst Fund, which is a fund designed to help businesses who win contracts and need to enter into a bond. So that might be an advance payment guarantee, a performance bond, and a warranty bond. This fund differs from the Northern Powerhouse Investment Fund in that we can invest up into the northeast. So we invest up into the northeast Lep area, Tees Valley, and a little bit of Yorkshire. And we can invest in any size business, so it doesn't have to be an SME. We can invest up to 2 million, and basically the business would apply to the bank they win a contract, apply to the bank for a bond. And the bank quite often will want full cash security cover, which is where we come in and we lend the business the cash to sit in the bank account, a ring-fence bank account, to secure the bond. And this means that businesses can compete and win contracts that perhaps they wouldn't otherwise be able to deliver. So an interest-only loan, obviously, it's there's a a little bit of a cost there to add on to take off the contract margin, but we have worked with a number of businesses who have come back to us repeatedly. I've got a couple of examples that you might know of that just demonstrates how it works. So Industrial Marine Hydraulics is a Middlesbrough-based family business, and indeed this company has benefited from both the Northern Powerhouse Investment Fund and the Tees Valley Catalyst Fund. So this is a very long-established family business. James here on the right of the picture is the son who's taking over from his father, Paul, wanted to take the business to the next level, won quite a large contract which needed a performance bond. So we were able to come in and help them by providing that security to the bank to issue the bond. And also we've invested some debt funds into there to help them grow. They were looking to relocate premises, but I think the COVID has meant their plans have been stalled a little bit. But we are also looking to help them with some further C-bills at the moment. And then the other example is Wilton Engineering. I'm sure a lot of you know Bill Scott. He'll take no introducing. And Wilton Engineering have worked with FW Capital for quite some time. They there's someone trying to deliver a parcel. Apologies for that noise in the background if you can hear it. So, excuse me. So as I say, Wilton have been working with us since 2014. We've helped them with a number of a number of their bond requirements. They've moved out of oil and gas and diversified into the offshore renewables sector, which has quite significant demands for bonds. And we have also just helped them with a C-bills loan. So they are a great example of how we have assisted a local business and helped them continue to employ lots of staff. The last fund, which I will just briefly mention to you, is the North East Property Fund. This fund can only invest in the North East LEP area, so that's not Tees Valley, but sort of north of Hartlepool and up to the Scottish borders. And it's a fund designed to help small developers build out residential or commercial schemes. And if a business owns land and has planning permission, then we can effectively help them fund the build of the project. So that's really taking off. That fund now has got lots of activity going on. So that's FW Capital. Quite a fast run through there, covering quite a number of areas areas of support in the first instance, and then how FW Capital can help. We are an approachable bunch. This is just a slide to show you that we are human. We're a bunch of experienced ex-bankers, qualified accountants. Some of the teams have worked in industry, run their own business, or have family members in business, and so we can bring a lot to the table. Really, we often add a lot of value. And although we're not a signposter, we can and usually do make introductions or point people in alternative directions if we aren't the right people to speak to. When I say we're human, we nearly all are. This is our fund manager's dog, which brings a smile to our face every time we see that. And this is our team. With that, so if you, I think that the slides will be available afterwards, but our contact details are all on there. But if anyone has any questions, I shall be around in the either VIP area, or one of the team will be in the booth, I think, for the next, till we close off at 4:30, is it? Thank you for your time.